Hi, this is Roy Burley, part 3 of my testimony, overcoming difficult times. And we were talking about the low mood created by toxic thoughts. And when something doesn't feel good, don't think about it. And what is it that's interesting to me about low mood that's created by these thoughts is when you're in a low mood and you're feeling terrible, your brain, that frontal lobe there, will see a problem, and it's designed to fix problems. And it will try and work that problem out. But oftentimes, depending on the situation, sometimes we can be triggered into anxiety. You know, I worked in prison. I worked with, most of the guys I worked with had some kind of trauma. So I'm familiar with guys who are triggered, and there's a part of your brain, I'm a little bit dyslexic, so I'm not good with all the words. I'm not even going to attempt to say those parts, but those words, but it's a center part of your brain, and it's the fight, flight, and freeze part. It's the survival part of your brain, and that part of your brain is triggered to survive. It will pump adrenaline in your body when that's triggered. But the interesting thing about that part of your brain is it doesn't know time. So whatever you're imagining, and these guys, they're sitting in their cells and they're reliving things from the past, or they're imagining things that are going to happen in the future, and they're there and they're totally safe. They're behind closed doors at night, but they're experiencing what they're imagining, because like I said, that part of your brain doesn't know time. So whatever you're imagining at that point, it thinks it's happening, and it thinks it has to survive. So it begins to trigger a survival mode. So now this anxiety that you're experiencing is basically chemicals that your body's pumping in there and then, trying to get you out of danger when you're completely safe. And this often happens with people with trauma. They're re-experiencing the trauma because they've been triggered by a situation, a physical situation. It could be a smell, it could be a face, it could be anything, or by a thought. And so when you begin to think about something negative over a period of time, in a way you're releasing lots of toxic feelings, if you like, into your body. So with a prolonged amount of toxic thoughts, you could be feeling bad for quite some time. So when we first disengage with all this negativity, and we stop and we let this stuff go, and we don't keep thinking about it, it can take a while for everything. I used a snow globe, for that snow shaker to subside, for all those feelings to subside, so that your true born again spirit can come up. It can take some time. You see, Paul said the enemy of God is the carnal mind. The word carnal, carne, it means flesh. It's where we get the word, I think, chili con carne. So chili with meat. So it's a very natural part of the brain, which Paul said is the enemy of God. Because this part of your brain goes into self, goes into trying to work out yourself in your strength, how to fix your life. And we were never meant to live by the tree of knowledge. I know what's good. I know what's bad. But we were meant to live by faith. And that's the not knowing. So we get so scared to let stuff go because it's our only method of control, and we believe we have to fix our lives. So by just letting stuff go and trusting that God has got us, that we are okay, it's a difficult thing, but when we do it, what I'm telling you, I've proven it works. And it's worked with the guys in prison. You know, there's a scripture that says, take every thought captive. I used to teach the guys in jail to do this. And I remember one guy, many of these guys have killed people. A lot of them have killed people. They didn't even know they killed them. They were drunk. They were out their head on drugs. And they showed them the video after what they've done. They can't believe it. That's common. That's very common in jail. And I remember one guy, he would come to my meetings regular, and I would teach him how to capture his thoughts and watch the emotions, stay awake, stay aware, watch the emotions in his body. And I noticed over a period of time, because when he came, he was doing well because he'd been off drugs for a while. He'd stopped off drugs for quite some time. But his mood, his happiness was always low. And then after a while, I started to see a lightness in his step, and I saw the real him emerging. And I asked him one day, I said, why have you changed? What's happened to you? And he said, well, I did what you told me to do. I started to watch my thoughts. And I started to realize I wasn't my thoughts. I started to watch the feelings that they caused in my body. And I started to realize they're not my feelings. They're not who I am. They might be my feelings, but they don't define who I am. And so when the carnal mind comes, you'll notice it will always come in the past or the future. So in the past, it comes with shame, blame, guilt, anger, those kind of emotions. Or it will project into the future with fear. So if you're experiencing any of those things, you are not in the spirit. You've slipped into the carnal mind, which Paul was preaching about, and he was saying, this is the enemy of God. And so how do we combat the enemy of God? We have to capture the enemy. We have to watch those thoughts. Now, one of the things that we should all realize by now, we can't stop the thoughts from coming. We can't stop the feelings from coming. The thoughts will come, the mood will come, the low feelings will come. Sometimes it's demonic. Look at Saul. An evil spirit would come and he'd try to kill someone. So sometimes you can get demonic oppressions. Sometimes it's just your carnal mind. Sometimes it's a combination of both. But you cannot stop these thoughts. You cannot stop these feelings. But if you watch them, you capture them. So here comes a guy. You're sitting on the bench and he's riding on his bike. Here he comes and you're watching him come. And here he comes and then you watch him go. This is how you watch your thoughts. This is how you capture your thoughts. So let's just make it even more clearer. I'm having a toxic thought. Here's an old thought coming. Here's a thought about my sins. Here's a thought. And now it's bringing a feeling of shame in my body. And disappointment I'm disappointed with myself, and I'm sick of myself, and now it's having an effect on me. It's like, well, I don't want to go forward, I don't want to minister, I don't want to do the things I was created to do because I feel so terrible about myself. So now that thought comes to steal my identity, because what that thought's saying is, I am this shame, I am this sin, I am this negative thing that I've done. or it's a thought of shame of what's happened to me, some kind of abuse, some kind of situation that has created this identity in me through this thought. Now, if I'm awake, if I'm watching, I can see from my true born again spirit. And when I explain this to people, some people find this hard to understand, but I'm just simply saying that you can see you are not your thoughts. And the bit of you that's seeing that is your spirit. The fact you can watch a thought, the fact you can watch feelings in your body and watch how you're feeling and not become a part of it, that's your born again spirit. And that's the bit that is disengaged from the carnal mind, the carne. And now you're watching it, and here it comes. And here it's saying and often the things we're struggling with, the thing that's derailing us, they've been planted there from our childhood. We've been thinking this forever. We've been feeling this all our life. And it's having the same effect. But now by disengaging with it and thinking, oh, here comes that old thought. Here comes that old feeling, that old voice. Telling me I'm the worst thing on the planet, telling me I'm a failure, telling me I'm no good, telling me I'm stupid, whatever it's telling me I haven't done enough, telling me about the future that I'm going to go to hell and things are going to go wrong and all the things that's going to happen in my life and I'm going to get sick and I'm going to get cancer and all these stuff. They're old thoughts or old fears. And by just watching and seeing I am not my thought, they've lost their power. Because when those thoughts come, they need power to create your reality. They need your agreement. They need you to think that you are your thoughts, you are your feelings. And so it becomes so powerful that when we don't watch and when we engage with them, when we think about them, when we think we are them, we then create a reality. That's how powerful we are. We create our world. We create our reality. We create our lives. The lives we're living, we have created it through our thoughts and our feelings that have been either projected on us or we've conjured up ourselves in our own imagination. And now we're living out a life that we created, which is a lie, which is not the truth. That's why Jesus says, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And as you begin to know what is the truth, what is the reality, that this is not real, it becomes real. It really does become real. It's that powerful. Once it gets you, once these thoughts and feelings gets you, it's reality. I was sinking. I was going down a real bad route. That's how bad these thoughts can be once they attach themselves to us. But when we disengage, we begin to see we're not our thoughts. And then we begin to realize, if that's not who I am, I don't have to hold it. And as I let that go, the true me arises. And I want to talk about what happens when the true me arises.